You're good.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 29th. The time is 6:31 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First up is consent agenda. Minutes from June 7th. Any comments, questions, anything on the minutes?
I'm going to abstain because I was not here.
Okay. Anybody else?
Jill?
Mm-mm.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 7th.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain?
Aye.
Okay. Next are warrants 0075, 0077, and 0078. I have them here, I think, in the folder to be signed. Just haven't gotten through them yet. Any questions or comments on the warrants? Okay. If not, I'll take a motion.
We'll make the motion to approve warrants 75, 77, and 78.
Also-
Those in favor?
I'll
Oh,
second.
you'll second. That would be great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Now what do I say? Oh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Lord. It's going to be one of those days. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day. Okay, next is the antiquated technology.
David, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure, thank you. This is a vote that is taken every year around the same time that authorizes the administration to dispose of. Thank you.
This is a vote that is taken usually every year at this time. It authorizes the administration to dispose of technology that is antiquated or dysfunctional. This year is a little bit different. Typically in the past, the majority of the equipment being disposed of was equipment that had been donated to the school that was used for a few years. And then as more donations came in, the older stuff would make its way out. We still are leveraging donations a lot, and there is some older donated equipment that we got as much useful life out of it as we could, and that will be disposed of as usual. But in addition to that, we have a large number of Chromebooks that will expire tomorrow, at the end of June, not tomorrow, but at the end of the month. When I say expire, Chromebooks have an expiration date, and once that expiration date comes, they no longer receive updates, so they lose functionality. So a lot of those were Chromebooks that were purchased with the construction of this building. They served us well, but they're expiring, and they need to be replaced because they will not run the programs next year we need them to run. Fortunately, the majority of the replacement cost is covered with federal funds that we got through the pandemic special financing. So, and those are on campus and will be ready to be deployed when school starts. Additionally, we applied for funding to replace the teacher laptops. The teachers' laptops probably have about 1 year left of life in them. However, we had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get some additional federal funding that would cover about 3/4 the cost of replacing them if we do it this year. So we applied for that. If we get that money, what we would do is we would take the current laptops, once the new ones are here and ready, and we would send them to a company that would pay us whatever the residual value is on it. That money would come to us, and then the teachers would get new laptops that would probably have a life expectancy of 3 to 4 years. Okay? So that's the plan. I just wanted to be transparent and give you the full story. So if anyone has any questions. No. Thank you.
I have one question. When we do get the new Chromebooks, what's the lifespan of those?
I think there's two different types we're getting. Some will be good through 2026, and I think others 2028. I'll have to double check that. Once again, those dates are established by Google and the manufacturers, not by us,
Correct.
you know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So we need to vote.
And we don't have any sort of document that lists it out, like the books, correct?
I didn't see.
There's a link.
I did go on the link. But it's not,
Oh, it's just redirected?
it's not technology,
Oh, it's all the,
yeah. I just didn't know if I was missing something.
We will have a finalized inventory when it actually happens.
Okay, that's fine.
And if you want, I can share that with you at that time.
Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
If not, then I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion to vote on the technology that's being disposed of.
To approve it?
Approve, yes, that would work.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, antiquated book disposal for East Meadow and Granby Junior Senior High School.
This is the link that I think Audrey clicked on, and then the East Meadow books for disposal are a separate PDF in your folder. So the East Meadow one, really a result of the new early literacy program, and I did also ask for that just to see if there was any opportunity to get some buyback, and you'll see at the bottom of that we did reach out to a number of vendors, and there was no opportunity really to get anything back for those books. So, so we're proposing that we dispose of them, because if you walk through the front foyer here, you'll see that they take up a significant amount of space. It's not something that we can just hold off.
Nope, get rid of it.
So-
Not going back that way anyway, so.
Right. And then the materials from the high school classroom, there's notes in that, from the high school and junior senior high school, there's notes in there that most of them were either replaced by a more current edition already, so they just need to be disposed, or there's not a current need for those books.
So for real, please tell me that we weren't using the 1988 English books, that they were just holding space?
You're holding space.
Okay. I did have a little bit of, I don't know, we'll call it application. I was like, those were in school when I was in school. All right.
And then the little additions on the bottom, I love.
The pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those things are going.
I exited too far. I don't know the whole thing. Are any other questions or comments on that?
No.
Okay, so we still need to vote. What do we do with them? Can they be recycled?
Yeah, they would get recycled if they're able to be recycled, but we would just dispose of them.
Okay. Great.
And like the stuff that can go metal, John Sullivan and his team take it to the scrapyard, so. No,
All righty. So sorry about that. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the disposal of antiquated books for East Meadow and Granby Junior Senior High School.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
storage space, thanks.
All right, next is visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone who is unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included for the record of the meeting. Can you put up the...
Yeah, Ally.
Oh, Allie.
And me.
And you. That's it. All right.
I can talk if you want.
It look, to me, this is how bad my eyes are. Attendees, it looks like there's a number.
All? No, just A, Ally.
Just Ally, okay. The number of parentheses looks like 11 to me from here, so.
I'm right with you, actually.
Yeah, but I have glasses, you do not.
I have contacts.
Oh, okay. So I guess we have none. Moving on. New business. First up, superintendent evaluation.
So do you want me to start and kind of talk about it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I know that as per our last meeting, we heard from Stephen about the end of cycle kind of report and findings and kind of his presentation. And so as we left that meeting, kind of compiled all of our individual evaluations, and then that was forwarded for the overall information to be put together. So as a result of that, I can kind of hit the highlights and kind of review that for us here tonight. And I'll go just right through the end of cycle, the summative evaluation report that everybody has, and that also is in our folders. In terms of progress towards goals, with professional practice goal, we were kind of right down the middle between significant progress and meeting. With student learning, it was noted as met, and district improvement goals, which there were 3, it was also noted as met. In terms of assessing performance on standards, all areas were noted as proficient, as well as the overall summative performance was in the proficient range. And just for anyone to be aware of, the 4 categories are ranging from unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, to exemplary. In terms of overall evaluator comments, some things to kind of highlight. Under standard 1, which was instructional leadership, Stephen had worked on district's plans, identified some learning targets and learning lost, did a lot with reviewing data, establishing a sense of belonging for students, working on the walkthrough tool, and social emotional learning supports for students, and the literacy grant was noted, trying to meet the needs of all students. One area that was a theme throughout 3 of the 4 evaluations was kind of what to do with the data, like what to go forward with next, and what does that look like, and how does that impact all students and learning. And in the second category for management and operations, the highlight there was really about the budget and improving and what that looked like with the communication and relationships with the town, and how that had gone very well this year. And standard 3, which was family and community engagement, it was noted that, you know, he was very visible within the school and the classrooms, and also in community events. He was great with notifying families of any important news and events, and had taken the time to listen and learn from, you know, all groups and people through his first year here as superintendent. And standard 4 for professional culture, there was the emphasis on continuous learning, him embodying being a professional, modeling for others, and also being able to acknowledge areas of strength and improvement, and then kind of always persevering in order to meet challenges, enact change, and kind of self-reflect. So that was overall. In terms of the individual goals, with the student learning goal, overall, it was noted that there was significant progress made. Professional practice meeting. The district improvement goal number 1, which was based on effective entry and direction setting, he had met. District improvement goal number 2, which was establishing the improvement plan, there was significant progress. And district improvement goal number 3, communication and community relations, that had been met as well. When you break down each standard into more kind of focus areas. There were certain areas identified as part of the goal setting aspect. And for standard 1, which I had talked about with instructional leadership, all areas were identified as proficient and proficient overall. And it highlighted those areas previously. If anyone has any questions, I can certainly highlight them again. But what we did here is we added all the individual comments and things that we had made for further review. In standard 2, it was noted that Stephen was proficient again, and in the first, or in the 2A, and when it talks about the environment and developing an effective plans, procedures, and routines, it was noted that he was, it was split between 2 members noting he was proficient and 2 noting he was exemplary. And in terms of standard 3 and breaking that down with community relations and engagement, again, he was noted in this category as a high proficient because it was kind of split between 2 members of the committee noting proficient and 2 members noting exemplary in the area of engagement. And in the 4th category for professional culture, again, all proficient. And again, that category just highlighted his commitment to high standards, his communication, and his efforts for continuous learning. So, in kind of working on this process as part of the subcommittee and then kind of pulling all the information together, I think there's certainly some areas that we can talk about kind of adjusting or tweaking as we go forward, but kind of going through it once and understanding kind of the full scope of what it entails. You know, I think it certainly was helpful to kind of add maybe as much information as we could into the full document, and then we can always, like I said, adjust as we need to. But that's what I have, unless anyone wants to highlight anything else or add anything else.
Well, first I want to thank you, Jill, and Audrey for being on the committee, and then Jill for all your work at compiling everything. Excellent. And then, Stephen, do you have any questions or comments or anything on the evaluation?
You know, first, I appreciate the feedback. I think, you know, getting feedback from you all helps me understand your vision and expectations for me in this role and this district as a whole. So having that in writing is really important. I think somewhere in some of these comments it talked about one of the goals, not the person not feeling comfortable with it being met versus significant progress. And I would agree. I think a lot of the work that we did this year, that we're doing right now, is about setting the tone and trying to establish a foundation that we can build on. So I certainly don't disagree that despite some good work in the past year, there's a lot of work ahead of us. And I look forward to that work with the leadership team and you all. And I remain excited about the prospects for Granby, and I think getting us onto a really positive and exciting trajectory.
Excellent. We're so glad that you're here, and obviously happy with the work that's being done. And I'll just say that reading these, like we went through and made goals and everything, but then when I was working on the evaluation, it became very difficult for me personally to distinguish. I felt all of our goals were fairly lofty, and not any of them were something where we're going to be like, oh, this is done, you know? So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I'd like to keep in mind when we go forward, just the framing of some of the goals, so that, you know, the met and exemplary, you know, I think it was a learning process for everybody, I'll say. So I'm going to speak for myself, not for everybody. I think you're doing a tremendous job, and I hope that you get that from the evaluation, but I think we as a committee need to look at how we frame things, because we're in a situation where we're not going to, we're going to have the issues that we have, because we're not immediately going to get tons of money or a brand new building just because we decided we wanted to work towards it. And so it's unfair to say, oh, this is,
Right.
things like that. So that's my 2 cents for that. Anybody have any other questions or comments or anything on the evaluation or the evaluation process? No? Okay.
And I too wanted to say I appreciate the process, Audrey and Jill. I know a lot of how much work went into establishing a process, and I know that, like Jill said, there's opportunities that we could tweak things, and certainly, but I think the fact that, we're today, right, 2 weeks ago today is the last day of school for students and staff, and the fact that this evaluation is being communicated now, will go into our system, into the state before July 1st. I think credit to all of you, so thank you very much.
So I think it's definitely a bonus for us to have this subcommittee, because I think it helped keep us on track and not get us waylaid with so many of the other things. So if you guys have any things that you want to know, I think are you both on it again?
I think yes, and we did talk about next year even trying to do it a little sooner, too. Again,
So if you have any notes or anything that you want to keep in the file so we can remember, and then.
I think even the calendar helped keep us on
Yeah.
track with that, too. So that
Absolutely.
it kind of flags in our mind to do things.
But
So.
anything, for, like we were talking about just recently, to keep things for people going forward, like to keep,
Mhm.
if questions on how to get the information better,
Right.
and we could all add stuff, I talk Stephanie ears off. I'm like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to word this.
I was right with you.
Well, and now there's folders, too,
Right.
specific to them, too. So I think that'll help keep it organized as well, which I really liked. I didn't get to say that last time. It looks great.
So excellent. We don't need to vote or anything. It feels like I had this built up like this was going to be really. Wow. So we're doing great.
Cruising.
All right. Next is vote on ACAB-R. This is a policy one. Yeah.
Yes, that's the
Yes, so
policy.
we did the first read at our previous meeting. This, I believe it's the sexual harassment policy. I think Jill articulated this the last time. We got this through our attorneys as a template, and
Yeah. We're not changing anything.
All that we did was put Granby in the places we needed to put Granby.
Correct.
Yeah.
As is.
I think we were going to vote on it last time, but we figured we needed to follow the rules, right? So. Does anybody have anything else, last minute tweaking or questions or comments or anything? If not, I'll take a motion.
Make the motion to approve policy ACAB-R.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the CORI policy.
Excuse me.
So I unfortunately don't have a whole lot to report on that. So I did speak with our attorney. We had talked last time to see if she had a draft. She did not have a draft. Her and I both checked MASC. They did not have a draft. I checked Belchertown and Chicopee. Theirs were very similar to each other and to ours. So I think an assumption that I might be making is that the way that people might be practicing the policy might be a little bit different than we are versus having a specific policy, because this was really about whether or not school committee members should have a CORI. And last time when I talked to Kimberly, she said, based on what we have right now, she wouldn't require it, but if the school committee wanted to put a policy in place, they had that option. And then I did follow up, and like I said, she didn't have a template, and I think it seems like it's being done different in practice in different places, but I have not been successful in finding a specific policy that says all school committee members in a district get CORIs.
So is there, what?
So I have a question, because I know that I'm required to have a CORI, even in Chicopee. But is there any policy that's even stating that the staff and all of that need to?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we
so
have that
could we
policy.
use that current policy and, like, can it be something, to talk to Kimberly about somewhere where, you know, it's amount of time spent in the building, you know, needs to be, is required to have a you know?
That policy just, it reads very vaguely.
Yeah. Yeah, when I had asked
So-
Kimberly about that specifically before, I made, not the argument, but I posed the question around the school committee being here, there's opportunity for, right, one of you and Marcus to be the first two here, or for you to be part of a committee who's here and other students happen to be in the building. So I said, because they're on the school committee, is there more of an opportunity for them to have this direct, unsupervised contact? She pushed back and felt like, no, she didn't feel like just because you were school committee members, you had a greater opportunity. And that's conversation that evolved. too.
I think, because then, as we say it out loud and talk about it, then we'd be setting precedent that someone that sits on a committee that might meet during, when the building is open, you know, like any interview committee or anything else, then those people might have to be quarried. So, you know, I don't want to put ourselves in a position that we can't get volunteers because they can't get a quarry back fast enough, or maybe.
Well, is that the policy now, though, for volunteers and stuff?
For in the classroom, but not to be honest, not to
Right.
sit on a committee
Okay.
or come in for, you know, for a meeting or.
But I guess I was thinking about it differently too. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it open to school committee members as well that if we wanted to come in and walk through or observe in schools or to do things like that, like we have the ability to do that and it doesn't necessarily have to be supervised?
It doesn't have to be supervised, but it would be supervised unless you had the core. Right? Yeah.
Right,
We still have to be signed into the building though.
right, but you would have to have somebody with you
Correct.
Walking through.
walking
You would have
through,
the principal or assistant principal walking with you rather than you just.
stopping in, checking in, and kind of doing a little walkthrough or something,
maybe
or,
just could be a teacher or somebody
Yeah.
else.
I guess it's just, this committee is a different capacity than an interview committee. And because you wouldn't have an interview committee that kind of stops into a building or comes to different things, so to me, like, that distinguishes it in a different way.
And I think, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I think if this committee feels that they would like to have something in place, then I can go back to Kimberly and say, this is what they're thinking, and see if she can draft something so we could review it. It doesn't mean that we have to like create the policy right now and implement it. If that's the decision of the committee, I'm happy to go back to her and say, the committee discussed it and really feels that there is more of an opportunity for school, whatever that might be, and would like to see, even if it's just a line added to our current policy.
Yeah, and I'm just curious if other places do this as a practice and they don't have any additional policy, then how did that come to be, and then what does that look like? So is it just an understanding that, like, that people do this, or like, what does that look like? Because then, you know, I'm sure their school committee members or whatever it is kind of come and go, or, you know, and obviously they sign in and they know that they're there. But they might come for a specific reason and they might sit and observe, or they might do things like that. So, you know, as a practice, does the policy then need to change if that's something that we want to look at? Because I did look at quite a few different districts' policies, and they're all the same as ours, but they're all doing
Something different.
something different.
And you know that they're doing something different because just of interaction with people, like school committee members in different towns? Okay. So, expand on that for me.
So, for example, like,
In town A.
in town A, it was just said to me, like, oh, well, when you did your CORI, And I was like, gee, I don't know that I did, but like everything happened so quickly, I couldn't recall. And they were like, oh, well, you know, we had a new school committee member come in. Like, this is their packet of paperwork that they processed at central office. It included a CORI, it included this, a meeting with the superintendent, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, huh, interesting. Well, what's the like, where is, and then looked, and I was like, oh, that's the same. And so then I looked.
Outlined in their policy. Right.
No, but the way the policy reads, it states as like individuals. Like it says like staff, individuals, it's got quite a few, it has quite a few words in there that could include
Yeah.
like members of the school committee, because it's general enough.
Okay.
It was, you know,
And in that instance too, if that became a part of our process as like a welcoming, if you will, then a policy change wouldn't even be needed.
well, that's my question to it. Like, do we need to have a policy if it's just something that we want to practice? And then if somebody ever came along that didn't want to practice it, like, I guess I don't really know what happens then. Like, I guess they don't do it, but at the same time, then that's just information for the school to know that, like, then this individual can't kind of come in and kind of check in with the office and, you know, observe different events or observe something in the classroom or whatever that looks like. Just with everything happening everywhere around the world, I just feel like being kind of fully transparent and having just kind of one added layer of information for the schools is helpful.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It kind of took on a life of my what I had originally been thinking of, and then I kind of backtracked in my head. But now, all right, so what do we want to do? Do we want to revisit this again later? Do we want to, because I think we need to outline, if we're going to adopt it as a practice, then I feel like there's a bunch that we have to then outline.
My 2 cents. I mean, hearing it even delivered out like that sounds like a nice practice of, you know, having a meeting with the superintendent, hearing about the role. This is a packet of papers to get you started. Here's your Chromebook if you need it. Like, it might be a nice welcome practice to just kind of start. I mean, there's nothing to say that anyone's, I'm not filling that out. Like, and maybe they will, and we can cross that bridge and then not worry. I don't know. Like,
But if we have it as our practice and they don't fill it out and they're not following a policy, do they then not?
there is not a policy for it though, if we don't make it a
That's my question
policy.
too, as an elected official, if it's not a town.
Well, and again, this is a school committee thing. Like, the policy itself is not part of, it's part of,
For the school.
for the schools. It's not a
We're going to
town.
interpret it then as individuals, and we are the individuals that then do it, then we're adopting.
We're also volunteers.
Right, I know, but so
That was
this is where it feels sticky to me. Because if we then say that this is going to be our practice, adopting and following the policy as it's written, and individuals encompass us as school committee, and we have someone on a school committee panel that refuses to sign, are we then saying that they cannot be?
No, I don't think we have the authority to do that. I just think it's information, like I said, for the, you know, for Stephen, for whoever's in the school buildings to note or to, you know, keep information on. Like I said, it's a practice, so then it's not part of the policy that can be enforced in that way. And it's not tied to the elected position
Right.
to hold.
Okay.
I mean, at least for me, if that's what Kimberly's saying, like, that's what I'm hearing, it's not kind of tied together, but
Because it can't.
it's, I feel like it's appropriate information if you're going to be potentially around students. And if we're going to be the people that are, you know, helping to make decisions for students and decisions for the school buildings and things like that, I think you know, we don't need to know that about each other, and we don't need to have it shared, but the people that are in the school buildings that are walking with us or scheduling things for us to come and observe or doing whatever that looks like, I feel like they should have that information. But I'm just one person, and that's all I'm gonna say on it. Whatever anyone else wants to do.
So I feel like I'm already quarried in the school just because for like chaperoning and different things, so.
It's yearly though, right?
Every three.
It needs to be done at least every 3 years.
Okay. I know I did a fingerprinting a couple of years ago, and that was, I think, 5 or even or something they sent us somewhere.
Printing, but the CORI, I think, was once every 3 years.
So interesting. I don't, are we ready to make a decision? Do you guys want to revisit? I don't.
I mean, I'm not anti giving everyone our 2 weeks to think about it, but I like the idea of it being part of a welcoming, like, process. And again, like Jill mentioned, it doesn't need to, obviously we can't have any bearing on if they choose not to do it. Great. But like, I'm sure everyone here is fine. So just being a practice moving forward, I feel like even someone to show up and, you know, maybe they want to see how the new curriculum is being rolled out. You know, if someone needs to walk away for a minute, you absolutely can't do that if someone's quarried, because then you're leaving them alone. I guess there's probably a teacher in the room too, which would be fine, right? So they're still being monitored. Like, is there a line on that? I don't know either,
Just
right?
makes it trickier.
Correct. But I don't think it's a bad practice. There's nothing bad that would come out of us requesting it other than someone refusing. And if they refuse, they refuse. But it's more like, you know, keeping honest people honest, you know? One of those silly things.
I definitely like the idea of like more of a welcome kind of bundle of information. I think that's really helpful. I guess my question too would be like, when would this be implemented? Like, how soon would we, you know?
Well, it's not contingent upon their role as a school committee member, but it would be.
But
within-
if we say like, oh, we'll put in that welcome packet, like when's the next time, like would we be using like us currently on here too? Like,
It's just a one-page form and a copy.
right, no,
of
I'm
your-
not worried about, I'm just saying though, like if it's in that manner, like it's essentially, we could potentially not have someone fill it out if it's a welcome packet, if we've already all been here for however long. Like, I'm just wondering, I don't want it to look like we're targeting only new people, I guess is why.
Oh, no.
My
I mean, I
thing.
think like
So
we
your
would all,
terms are 3 years?
Yeah, like 3
So
years.
actually, in some
So
ways,
it would be
works
with
out,
that.
right? Like, so
Right, you know what I mean?
if it
Right.
happened at the time of your election.
Right.
So even if you're returning to
Yeah.
a school committee seat,
Yeah.
you're still filling out the CORI, but you're not necessarily getting the whole welcome packet.
Right.
Your first time through, you would get that.
Yeah.
right.
So that in some ways lines up.
No, it does absolutely
I
line
mean,
up.
and more while we're here at a meeting, it's easy to probably copy the license, hand you the papers, and then it is what it is. It's just part of the process.
Yeah, Jackie runs in, and I mean, the turnaround time is really quick now. Hours since
Mhm.
it's-
Yeah.
Okay then. Well, I think I think I would feel more comfortable running this new version by Kimberly,
Okay.
just to make sure that we're not,
Yep.
I don't want to set any kind of weird precedent or something where we're, you know, I understand, all right.
Yeah, I think Jill asked the question earlier that I would ask Kimberly, right? Do we need a policy if this becomes part of our practice?
Right.
If this is just the way that we operate,
Mhm.
and at some point we have somebody come in and say, you know what, I'm not gonna fill out the CORI, then that too is just information.
Right.
Right, then
Mhm.
the building principals, myself know that this person didn't fill out the CORI, so if, when they do come in,
Mhm.
they need to have
Yeah.
somebody with them.
Makes sense.
And I guess my only other reservation that's niggling back there is I don't want to have the fact that we have school committee members with CORIs feeling like they can just come and hang in school all the time. Like, I don't know, like,
Well, it's not like that now anyway.
no, but I mean, I don't want
We
it
have
to
to
be.
call.
I think, you know, jobs and life and,
But I think too, we want to be welcoming to school
Right.
committee members as well, like, I think I'm confident the four of you would give the courtesy, right?
Right, okay.
So, I think if that becomes an issue,
Right.
then we might have a conversation and just say, hey, you should really give 24 hours notice or whatever, and
Sure.
have a finite amount of time that you're planning to spend there. I think that's a bridge we can cross when we get to it, but, yeah, I think it's one less step that people might have to worry about. And again, I think all of this, I mean, how often is it gonna come up too?
Right.
So, but I'll follow up with Kimberly with that question, and then I will just report back in our July meeting.
Any other things, well, anything else on that? I'm having real conversation problems today. If not, we'll move on to the school committee retreat.
So I just asked Jackie to put this on. We talked about it in the past. I see it as an opportunity for us to work together to kind of do some planning, work out some concerns people might have, learning together, those types of things. So I don't think it necessarily has to be like a week-long retreat or anything. It might just be a couple of hours. But I just wanted to put it on here in case anybody had thoughts, and if so, should we try to identify a date? And if we do that, then I'm happy to certainly help with the agenda, but would certainly appreciate any support or ideas that people might have in setting that up.
Thoughts?
Yeah.
Are we thinking in July?
I don't think we were thinking any date.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we want ideas? I'm not great about emailing later, but I feel like that would definitely be a time that school committee goals should be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
school committee goals is an area that I thought about too.
Mm-hmm.
And in that regard, it might honestly be best if it's, not that I'm wanting to have a ton of meetings, but I don't know that one day, a few hours, I don't know.
Well, I think if we start it,
Really selling it with that word retreat.
I think it's one of those things that if we started at a retreat, they've always been discussed as part of a meeting also, so we can flesh them out at the retreat and then,
The goals?
yeah, like
Okay.
start to work
I have
at
not
them.
partake in a meeting where we've talked about school committee goals yet, so.
And then, we can
Mm-hmm.
finalize them at a further meeting. It's just a thought. I'm not opposed to it, I'm feeling like summertime is hard and I know we need to do that, so I'm just trying, to me it feels, we were having a hard enough time like trying to schedule meetings over the summer, like just kind of looking at dates and everyone's calendars and vacations and stuff, so I'm willing to give it a try, but I'm still working during the summer, so it's not gonna, I don't have the time during the day, so it'd have to be at night. So it would be the same time as a meeting, just to be fully transparent. So if that works for everybody, then I'm fine with doing that. So do you all want to look at your calendars and see if we can try to find?
So we have a meeting now, July 11th.
July
19th.
July 11th, we have
We have the joint,
the joint meeting. He said we could push it, just to totally derail the conversation. I said 5:30 is a little early for us, so he said we could push it later if we wanted to, but if you want to confirm for 5:30, I'm okay with that. I'll just have to leave work
Can
early.
you just, one more time, what date are we looking at?
Monday, July 11th.
that was the joint meeting.
The
That
joint
would be at
meeting for
5:30 with the
for
select board.
appointment of George.
Does 5:30 work for you, or do you need it later?
I don't think the 11th works for her. I think that was one of the days why we pushed it off your way.
I'm like a hard baby on the 11th. I couldn't like guarantee the 11th because I'm not.
Because I'm assuming they picked a day that was with their regular meeting schedule, because they just met on the 27th, so 2 weeks would be the 11th.
Yeah, he said it is their regular meeting,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I checked, I didn't see their meeting up earlier today, so I haven't had a chance to see it, I just got the.
So,
I wasn't
as long as we have
anticipating
a
meeting a
quorum,
joint.
as long as we have a quorum, I think we're fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I can make the 11th work.
I can.
I can as well. It's already on my calendar.
And I let Jen know that I could not make that work, but if it's an option, I can certainly call in if need be.
And same thing, I could call in too if needed, for sure.
Do the same rules apply about calling in though, the unmuted the whole time situation, right? And that ends July 1st. How does that work?
15.
Okay. Whew. Right under the belt.
Sneaking.
And I don't, like, that's a meeting where I don't think I would have really anything to say. I would just.
He's just listening in for us.
Agreed.
He wouldn't be part, you know.
I just want to make sure we're covering our
Yeah,
bases
no,
of requirements.
I understand. And I don't even know if that would be an option, because select board meeting typically doesn't have that.
Right, they don't do Zoom.
That's right. They were doing GoToMeeting for a while or something.
Yeah, I don't think they're
FinCom,
doing
I don't
that.
think
They're not, they're
No.
just doing YouTube, so. Which again, honestly, I mean, and I'm okay with it as long as there's a quorum, you guys. It's gonna be hard to get all of us for these additional dates anyways. I
So as
wasn't.
long as we have quorum,
Yeah.
we're acceptable, so,
Mhm.
so I will confirm with Glenn, but now, so that's the 11th. So that's not what we were looking at the calendar for. Now we're moving on to school committee retreat, so.
Is there a day of the week that works best for anyone?
Mondays or Tuesdays, I guess, but, I mean, it's hard to say because it's summer, like, you know, everything, there's not one week that's the same as the next based on camp schedules or vacations or what have you, so, for my personal well-being, so I guess throw it out there and I'll see if it works.
I got nothing to throw out because I'm wide open. We're boring in my house.
I'll throw out from basically July 18th through August 5th. I'm very flexible to make it work. So, July 28th is the one day in there that.
Oh, that one really looked good.
Can we do either the 18th or 25th, if a Monday or Tuesdays, but Mondays are better for me than Tuesdays.
I'm not around the whole week of the 18th.
To the 25th?
No, to the 23rd.
So the 25th would work for
Mhm.
everybody? Jen?
I guess I just gonna miss Merritt's last soccer game for summer, so.
Well,
Do we,
Nice.
what about the,
Yeah.
do we want to try the,
No, let's, we can, the other
Can
thing
we
we
do the
choose.
26th?
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, 26th.
does that work for you, Stephanie? Yep. Excitement, I broke my pencil.
Is that not good for you?
No, it
Oh,
works.
wait.
I'm just laughing because we have our leadership
husband's
team
birthday.
retreat. the-
Yeah, he's fine. I'll give him the 3 kids for his birthday.
What's that?
Yep, it's my husband's birthday.
That's not good then.
It took me way too long to realize that.
I know there's something.
Yeah. Like, here, have your children for the day, the night. Have fun with that time.
August 8th, too late?
August 8th, no,
Or a
20.
number that we're gonna have to
Yeah,
consider.
Oh, no, we're not.
for dates.
Can we do August 1st?
I'll be away.
July 26th it is. It's fine. He'll be
We
fine.
noted this should be planned probably at the meeting prior to June.
Yeah.
Well, we also are making an assumption that
Correct.
our new member is going to be able to make it, so.
Mhm.
So I'm almost wondering, do we,
Tentatively Tuesday, July 26th, and then, I mean, are there any other days other than Mondays and Tuesdays, Wednesdays?
so we have the joint meeting on the 11th, and when's our meeting after that?
The 19th, I think you guys said, because I won't be here.
The 19th is there, yes.
Yeah, Jill's gone that whole week. Or not available, I should say.
What are our August meetings? Our August meetings are the 16th and the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be nice to try to meet before the 16th, realistically. I'm fine with doing Tuesday, the 26th, and then we'll see if our newest member can even make that day. Because he's not even gonna be a member until the 11th.
He's being appointed on the 11th, and then
Right.
he'll have to be.
Correct,
sworn in.
right, so like,
We did run through a bunch of dates with him last time, so, poor Gary. I'm just looking at dates about
is there any other days that week, of the 25th that are okay?
that. I
You know?
leave on the we're not sure if we're leaving on the 27th or the 28th, and we're gone until the 8th. So, that's just the way it's gonna be, I think.
Oh, I wasn't all down there, you put them in my calendar either.
Do we have a time that we're thinking, regular 6:30? Again, I guess that's my other concern, is we're starting it at 6:30 or whatever, are we gonna have enough time?
I can,
You know, do we try to meet, and not that we don't want you there, Jen, but try to do something during the day and do a wrap-up at another time, or,
totally fine. Whatever works best for everybody is fine by me.
I almost think it's tough to hash out right now anyways without having the other member too, because I don't want to we're going to sit here and finalize a date, and then
Right.
if it doesn't work for one of us, but then it doesn't also work for that person, then we kind of need to keep.
pointless anyway, right?
Correct. That's just my.
Yep, I agree. All right,
Do we, do we consider using our August 16th meeting, like, do a short business meeting if needed, and go through some retreat items there if we needed? I know it's difficult to predict what
Right.
may be on that agenda at that point, and we might have to scrap that plan, so I don't know if that's a good idea, but.
Well, I know that it ideally would be at the beginning, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. Is it possible that instead of having subcommittee meetings on our second meeting, that we have that whole time to kind of devote to some of the committee retreat type stuff? I mean, and again, as long as you guys have quorum, I don't have to be there for there to be quorum, you know.
I know, but the retreat is kind of a purposeful of all of us.
Yeah.
Which is tricky too, because again, not everyone is available the 16th.
So, I think we table this until our meeting of the 19th,
Yeah.
and then we can discuss it, so we'll just add that to the agenda for.
Just a random thought that I'm having too is maybe if we can get like a doc that is created, if everyone sends the dates they're not available to Jackie even, like, so then rather than like the repetition of us repeating online.
Like a Google Doc or something, like for.
You know what I'm saying?
Like a doodle poll?
Sure, I don't know. Just feels weird to be like,
Right. I'm going to be gone this date.
yeah,
This date.
yeah. Like, so then like we can all look at it and be like, okay, so these are what's left. Like those are all blanked out for whatever reason. Like these are the dates that are available. Thoughts? Sorry, Jackie. Mock-up of a little July
I would
and
almost do the
August
dates that
calendar.
are available
Correct,
versus
right,
are
just
not.
black out, that's what I mean, like black out the ones that are not available for various
And then just see what
reasons.
dwindles down.
What's left,
Well, yeah,
correct.
we can put together a doodle poll.
You know,
or
just-
something and then just try to get some ideas.
Right, yes,
We'll get something, so on the 19th, we can at least share that. So when you get it, don't be surprised if there's no dates before the 19th.
right,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
yep. Thank you.
When was our last meeting, June 7th?
So, yes.
Aha. Enrollment dashboard.
Excuse me.
So there is nothing to report. We'll have it for the July. The school choice number is in, but the charter school isn't in, so that hasn't been updated on the enrollment dashboard, and we still need to account for graduates and things like that, so that will be updated for the July meeting.
Okay, because I was also a little bit confused, because under the June, right, yeah. Hold on.
Are you looking at 2021?
Maybe,
Mm-hmm. There was no June.
there's no June. Yep, no questions.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I'm good. Just navigating the new folder.
Okay.
Oh, you were in here last time.
I
For
wasn't,
that.
but I was trying, well, when I was doing your stuff too, I was like, whoa, okay, hang on. Because I have like quick links myself, just so I can find it quickly. So I changed a couple of things.
Okay, school capacity.
So, the only update we have is a file in the folder. So the first round of school choice applications were due last Friday, June 24th. So at this point, all of the people who applied to open spots are being accepted. So those letters are going out this week. And the chart in there lets you know where there's still spots available. Interestingly, fifth grade seemed to be a popular option for people coming in. All 7 of those seats got filled. There were 7 openings, 7 applicants, so no lottery was needed, but that would close that grade. Everything else that had openings still has some openings.
Questions or comments on this?
These are new seats.
These are for 22-23, beginning in 22-23, yes. So it does not have returning school choice students.
The only thing I had, and it's just a format, and I totally understand that this is to show what's available, but I almost wouldn't mind seeing K and 6 included and just writing next to it, like,
No
you know,
open seats.
right, no open seats. Just that way, if anyone's looking, they don't think that we had an error by excluding that grade. Do you know what I mean?
Is there any updates on that kindergarten group and enrollment? I know, well, I know we already had our open enrollment period, but as far as, do we often in our district see a lot coming through the summer? Like there is no update on that?
Difficult to predict. There's no update. We're still at that 34
So it hasn't changed?
number right now. But again, as you know, as the summer rolls on, sometimes parents are like, oh no, I forgot, you know. So we could still see a couple. I think historically we've seen a little bit of a bump in the summer, but yeah, we're keeping a close eye on that number. But still wouldn't recommend adding seats because it's so volatile.
Yeah. And for new families that are moving in, if they're having to check this out, do they contact the superintendent's office? Do they call East Meadow?
If they're moving in, they can contact East Meadow first and foremost. They can email Lisa Desjardins. She officially begins on Friday. And if any other questions come up, they can contact central office. I know it's a skeleton crew in the summer, so I would always recommend that people try to give a call or an email before just showing up. But typically, they would contact the school to get enrolled.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Next, we need to vote on community liaisons. So we can vote on some of these, but I think.
I was gonna say, do we still wanna hold this off?
Yeah, I think we've been waiting because we wanted to have the last member, but I know, Jill, I think you want to do CES, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can vote on that one. And then, the other one, I think we have to wait because they would all be open, but I think since Jill wants that one as a returning member, she has priority, so
I would like to vote for that one if that's okay.
So, I'd like to, oh, I can't do that, so I'll make a motion.
Make the motion to appoint
Mhm.
Jill to the CES Committee Liaison, Representative Liaison.
Second?
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we got one. Okay. So we'll push the rest to the next meeting. Now, standing report, superintendent's report.
So as the school year closes, I think many administrators, people say, do you work during the summer? And oftentimes the answer is yes. We are very much in hiring season right now. So between some retirements, people taking jobs elsewhere, things like that, there are hiring committees at both schools, a couple positions still left. So again, we post our jobs on School Spring. If anybody is looking for employment opportunities in the Granby Public Schools, and that is where we are with staffing. So I think right now, teaching and staff positions, there's probably 8 or so out there that we're looking to hire. I was going to provide, and we've talked a little bit about it here tonight already, but a quick update on the vacant seat for the school committee. So after our June 7th meeting, based on what the committee had asked of me, I sent a letter to the select board, town manager, and town clerk, recommending George Balke, who was the one resident that we had heard from at that time who expressed interest. Last Friday, I had not heard anything back, so I followed up. Again, heard back from the town clerk around a bit about the process. We also heard from another community member on Friday that they were interested. We heard from the select board on Monday night that they were looking to schedule a joint meeting to appoint a person to the seat. I actually responded to the person who reached out yesterday, and they have since withdrawn their name. So we're back to where we started with the one interested resident. And then, as Jen, I think it was before, alluded to, the next step is the joint meeting. If there's an appointment made there, that person would then have to go to the town clerk and take the oath of office before being able to sit on a committee or participate in any votes. The COVID-19 testing impact report I just put in your folders. This was obviously new to us. It was through the partnership that we had with CIC Health. It lists the total number of samples that were collected in Granby, at home, how many at-home tests that we distributed, and then days saved is something that DESE has really pushed in by participating in test and stay and things like that. They have a formula that a certain number of absences, students were saved from having to be absent. And that number for our school district was 552 days saved, is what they identified. I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know if anyone has any questions, and I don't know that I would have the answers, but I'd be happy to try to answer or get them if you have any. And obviously, this does not count people taking the at-home test if they were negative. That's not included here.
Was the school days saved, that was from test and stay, when they were able to stay at school while testing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was my news. Quick update on summer enrichment. So we have had some interest. One thing that we're learning is one, we knew starting late. 2, I think the coordinators, Lynn Pollard and Leslie Mahoney, did a good job of recruiting staff, which meant that there were a number of options for different students, which then spread out where people were signing up. So certain places were getting 1 or 2. So For the East Meadow enrichment, we are not running the week 1, which was the 3-day week next week, continuing to recruit for weeks 2 to 4 and looking to consolidate certain things. So if somebody signed up for a STEM project, but maybe they can get involved in the highlights investigations, like we're working with them to see if we can make that run. Junior, senior high school, same thing, but we are running originally the pickleball was a 1 hour for different levels. They've now turned that into a 3-hour for everybody to participate, and I think they had 10 or 11 people signed up to participate in that next week. So that will be 3 days, and then again, the coordinators are working to try to make sure there's something running each week the following 3 weeks. I'd say we've already learned quite a bit from the process. We knew we'd have to get it out there earlier, and I think there's certain things that we'll tweak next year in addition to getting this out likely in February, March, that I think hopefully piques people's interest. Just want to notify people, work permits will be available daily, should say Monday through Thursday from 8 to 1. They can go down to central office. Jackie can help them with the work permits. I think students are used to going to the high school office, but in the summer, because the admin assistants in the high school office work, they take most of their vacation time in the summer, which we obviously appreciate. Jackie holds the work permit process down in central office. And then finally, I'm excited to announce, although people will be disappointed that I'm not going to announce the name, that we've signed the East Meadow assistant principal, and Mrs. Desjardins will be making that announcement, I anticipate, before the end of the week. So happy to have that position. And that's all I have.
All right.
Okay. Couple things. One,
Anniversary party?
yeah,
Should we have one? I think we should have one.
we actually got an email today from them saying they haven't forgotten about us, but supply chain issues. We're still missing one camera. I told you guys this last time we met. There was some miscommunication between us and the vendor about cameras being replaced. We came to an agreement that there was one camera that they didn't think they needed to replace that we originally included in the claim. They're still working on getting us that camera, but other than that, we are pretty much wrapped up with this project. So, just got an email back. She wanted to reach out and say she didn't forget about us. I forwarded you guys an email about the free meals for next year and the law or the bill that was signed last week. There's still a lot of unanswered questions on that. What it does do is extend some waivers through the summer. We're still waiting to hear about next school year, but there are some of those provisions extended through the summer. We're not offering meal service through the summer right now, so it really doesn't affect us, but there will be some implications on next school year, I'm assuming, but we don't know what that is yet.
I don't have her email.
No? Oh, I sent it to Stephanie and
Oh,
Jen. I'm just very careful on sending emails to the whole school committee, so.
okay.
I don't break any.
So then I have some questions. So it
Sure.
possibly did, I haven't heard anything, so,
So they extended, so it's a little murky still, they extended some of the benefits that we experienced through COVID for free meals through the summer.
Summer.
Okay, because they were set to expire June 30th. They extended some portions of the waivers through the summer. The biggest thing is they increased the meal reimbursement rates by 40 cents. Lunch by 40 cents, breakfast by 15 cents. What it doesn't do, which is the biggest thing, is it doesn't give universal free meals to everybody. Where over the last 2 years, essentially anybody would be able to show up, especially in the summertime, and get meals. That is no longer available.
yeah, I've heard like we're not doing it anyway, but that the child needs to be present and they need to eat on the premises and that too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Again, a lot of details we don't know yet. No real implications for us during the summer, but there might be for the start of next school year.
Okay.
And I think even the state is saying right now that they have already received waivers from the federal government, and now that this has come forward, they're not sure if those waivers are still in place or if they need to be adjusted. So I just forwarded Audrey and Jill that email, so you have it as well, but it's murky at best.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
And
can't
late-
help
and late
myself.
in the game.
Yeah.
I get it.
Where are we with the bid process?
That's next on my
Oh,
list. So.
sorry. I'll hold my horses. Sorry
It's
about
not next on my list, but I'll move it up.
that. Perfect. Keep it all grouped together, would you?
So, we had a mandatory bid walkthrough on June 20th, so last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. And we had Chartwell show up and a company from New York, Genuine Food Services, who's kind of new in at least school food services. We had a mandatory walkthrough, so we allowed vendors the opportunity to see the high school cafeteria and kitchen and see what they'd be working with when they prepared their bid. We only received the bid from Chartwell's, and they were due on Monday. I have it in my office. Even though we only received one, we're gonna go through the standard protocol on opening it, recording it, everything that we need to do. But Chartwell's was the only bid that we received. Barring some major omission from their bid packet, we would continue to do business with them, but that's not official yet.
Who do we usually get bids from other than Chartwell's?
So this is the only the second process. I think the first year I started, we went out to bid. It was Chartwell's and another company, Fresh Services or something like that. We don't. Again, I've only been through one, and in the past, from what I've seen, we don't get like the Sodexos or the Air Marshals. They're too big of a company to service someone like us. I don't think it's just profitable for them. So this time was only Chartwell's.
But it's typical to be like 2.
I don't know.
Right, I guess, true.
I don't, yeah. But I don't know. So, yeah, so, again, barring any major omission, we will continue to do business with them. I was gonna say something.
Was there any discussion with them about how, like, obviously they know us already, which is nice, and the uniqueness of that
Yeah, I mean, I
situation
can't really
and that?
engage in any discussion with them. They can ask questions. They ask questions during the bid walkthrough, but they're very familiar with
Right.
us, so.
What about the other companies? They have a lot of
Oh,
questions.
so this one, before I forget, so what we did, and I run it by you guys, so in the past contract we had is it's a 1-year contract with 2 renewal options for each year. So it's essentially a 1-year contract. At the end of that contract, I recommend we renew them. If not, we have to go back out. We changed it this year where we have the standard 1 year, but then 4 renewal options, so it could turn into 5 years. It kind of just prolongs the process, so we're not doing this every 3 years. But it's really only a 1-year contract, so if after this year we say, you know what, we'd like to go in a different direction, or after year 3, we can do that. That's all it is.
It gives us that ability to go back out to bid.
Yeah, every year, yep. Well, I'm sorry, what was your question? The other company?
Did they ask questions when they did their walkthrough?
They did, but it was more of like, just like, hey, we're in the market now. They're out of New York. I think they're doing some services out like in the eastern part of the state, but it's more, they asked some general questions, but I can kind of tell from the walkthrough they weren't, not that they weren't interested, but they weren't ready to prepare with it, so. Once I'm able to go through it, I'll bring the formal recommendation with me.
Thank you.
Couple more things, FY '22 close, and that's gonna be probably another month and a half or so process. The last warrant for FY '22 invoices is, those checks go out Friday, July 29th, so the invoice will be due a week before, so we got about 3 weeks to contact vendors, get all these invoices, and then we got about a month before we clean it up and do what we have to do. But obviously keep you guys up to date as we do that. East Meadow Lightning. School choice, we mentioned it. Our revenue, projected revenue that we got from the state we got a pretty significant increase based on what I had projected in the budget, about $60,000 more. That could change when we do October Sims and they true up in the winter. Could go up and down, up or down. But for now, we got about a $60,000 increase to what I had projected in the budget, which helps us a little bit offset both some additional things in the budget.
But noting that it's not a definite yet, it's still based on,
That number is
Okay.
indefinite. So from July 1st through late fall, winter, we will get that 768 divided by 12 payments because you get paid by monthly. When we submit our new information in the fall, if that changes, they'll prorate that amount. And so for right now, that amount is what we will receive in revenue.
okay.
for the next few months. That is all I have. Once we know more about free and reduced meals and all that, obviously I'll let you guys know.
Do we have any updates on any of that kind of stuff? I know that in town meeting, it was voted that there was going to be a subcommittee put together, and how do we get that process
I'm
started,
referring to
moving?
the renovations, the capital requests.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything more than what was written in that article.
So that's an interesting point, because it was something I was going to ask. But, so those were voted on as capital improvements that we're ready to do. So the normal process would be then those are sent out to bid?
Yeah,
The
one-
projects would be sent out to bid?
Yes, essentially, yes. Once they're approved and the money's appropriated, then we work with the town to, get a bid spec out there.
So the appropriation will start technically on Friday, right, July?
No, so based on that language in the
No, the
article.
town budget starts July 1.
The town budget, correct, yes.
So technically,
Yes.
those buckets, they put contingencies on the buckets, but the buckets would be filled on July 1.
No, my understanding is no, they would not be filled until that subcommittee approves it. Now, the money may be,
So I thought
the
that.
way I interpreted it was that it just moved to that next step, to that subcommittee. And that the
Okay,
money is not necessarily allocated, but I could have misunderstood that.
I understood, maybe it's wishful thinking on my end, I understood it to be, the town has voted on this, the money is being appropriated, they're just gonna control the purse strings when they look at it with the bid process.
No, I still unfortunately think there is a chance that
Yeah, I have to go back to that language, but I
it
think the
might not
language
get through
was
the next
that,
step.
like, moving that
Right, no,
forward
they-
was contingent upon a unanimous vote from the
But I thought it had to
subcommittee.
do with the bid process, so that's.
I think it is.
So, okay,
if that
so
project-
with the budget starting on July 1, we should, they would then have to open that committee sometime after July 1, right? Like, they couldn't afford, because it's all based on the new fiscal year, right? Like, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
So-
yes. It would have to start at least July
I
1.
wonder if they would put that on the July 11th.
I don't even know,
agenda.
does it live with, select board, or does
It's
it live
a
with?
joint
FinCom?
select board finance committee is what it said in the.
So we're not
article.
even represented on the committee?
Not according to the language in
Okay. So, perhaps we.
That's interesting. I'm sorry, I'm processing that, like,
I forgot about,
breaks.
find out, like, the weirdness of it, I had.
Because as we were talking just now, I started to think maybe when we do the committee liaisons, we should add that as a subcommittee that someone is involved in. And,
But I think they alleviated that. So, anyway, I think maybe we send a letter sometime after July 1st to them to just say, to follow
Both
up.
of them?
Yeah, to the chairs of the committees, just to see where we're at with that, so that Because what I don't wanna have happen is that they don't even talk about it until the end of the next, until next June. Because these are obviously things that we need to, we'd like to get started on.
So that included the kitchen also?
Both kitchen and the gym project have that caveat built in.
I have it, I just have to find it.
So I think a letter is fine.
It was
My
like one of the first
thought would
articles.
be to reach out to select board to see if that can be an agenda item on the joint meeting.
I think that'd be a great idea.
To start the conversation, and then a letter could follow that if need be to finance and select board.
I would assume those need to be posted meetings as well, right? That attendees could be there?
Well, the 11th joint meeting will be posted.
I mean, when they finally,
Oh, their
Oh, the
subcommittee?
subcommittee.
I don't know.
because we have to post ours.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be something we could ask.
So,
Or later.
Jen, do you want to reach out to Glenn, or would you like Jackie or I to reach out to ask that that gets put on for July 11th as well?
Is there a possibility that we also reach out to the chair of finance and find out when their next meeting is and put a bug in their ear as to whether or not they plan on?
I think we start with Glenn
Okay,
first.
sounds good.
That's my personal opinion.
No, that's fine.
Exactly, that was in the article.
Preschool kitchen. Article 5.
And
And Article 4.
4.
Yeah, so this says, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds.
Unanimous vote.
One point, to be expended upon the unanimous vote of a select board / finance committee subcommittee or take any other action in regard to. So, yeah, essentially all that town meeting did when it got approved was just to the next step.
Seems like that earmarks the money, but in order for that money to be spent,
Yes.
to select.
So the town
Yep.
can't they can't spend that, they owe us that money. And so
Wow.
that, they can't spend that money until they can't spend it away from us until they,
Until that subcommittee,
and if that subcommittee says no.
Correct.
That's different,
Yep.
but until that subcommittee meets, but there's no parameters or timeframes on that,
no,
so,
nope.
all right.
Yeah, so I think even July 11th, just saying, can you let us know what the next steps are? What's the process? I mean, even just starting there, I don't know how in depth they'll be able to get at that point, but at least saying who's on this committee, when does it start, when's the first meeting, and those questions.
We're working without a kitchen.
Okay.
Mm.
Anything else for that?
No, I'm good.
I think I'm good. I'm pondering, I'm running through it all in my head. I think I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, Jill?
All right, so we did meet on the 22nd for CES. In that meeting, we started to review FY23 budget. And the other thing that we talked about, or that they talked about, was establishing a capital plan and some reserve accounts. So the initial part of that was that the board there had to vote on whether or not we could establish a capital reserve account, and then there was talk that wording would come to each individual kind of school committee that participates, and there has to be 2/3 kind of majority vote from member districts in order for that to be established. They had talked about there was some there was a PPP loan kind of forgiveness So there was 4 million that was kind of designated through some, I think, COVID relief money that then was able to be earmarked for other things. So they were talking about taking 25% of that, moving that towards their operating budget, but then taking the other parts of that money and then using that in other ways, which part of it was establishing that account. So that was a big part of the discussion. And so that will probably head our way once everything's kind of firmed up with wording. And that was that big piece. They did finally ratify contracts with their staff there. And so that had been going on. I think they were probably about a year over. Yeah, because they talked about retroactive payments back to July 1st. And those were the big topics that were discussed. And we don't meet again until September, I believe.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else to be discussed? Questions? We have a few things that we've already pushed to our July meeting. And with that, if there's nothing else, we'll vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session.
Ms. Markos?
Aye.
Ms. Karen?
Aye.
Ms. Judah?
Yes.
Ms. Peltier?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.